There's a story called Shillelagh Law by Phaedra Weldon from the Oak and Ash and Thorn series, specially adapted for Seanchai Library. When we last left our tale last week, young Tam Kirkpatrick, student of folklore, drummer, and unwitting heir to secrets older than stone, was dragged from the familiar streets of Cambridge into the world he half believed was only myth. Hunted by trolls in human guise, bound by an iron torque, and named an unsheely prince, he glimpsed the cruel reach of the Morrigan herself. Rescued by the fiery Anya McCool, who is far more than a dancer, and drawn into the wary care of his Uncle Boggs, Tam has learned the truth of his blood, the peril of his heritage, and the looming fate tied to a shillelagh that may be the last of its kind. And so, we return on the cusp of a revelation, as enemies close in and allies prove both blessing and burden. Let's see how well you escape me again, Leprechaun, with your puka protector dead, Magnus bellowed at Tam. Dead? Tam held the crossbow in his trembling left hand as he used his right one to pull himself closer to Anya's unmoving body. No, he said as he reached out for her. Iron, deadly to Sheely. Ma! Magnus stepped over Anya and reached down for Tam. Now it's time to go, Prince. Your master is waiting. Tam couldn't take his eyes off Anya. He willed her to get up, silently screamed for her to rise and defeat this beast. He'd only really known Anya for a few hours, but he'd watched her for nearly a year as she danced and smiled and had good times with her friends. All the while, Tam had never known that she was there for him. Just for me, to protect me. And what am I? I'm nothing. I'm some fairy freak who can't even do magic. Tam's terror at the thought of losing Anya now twisted into a boiling rage inside his gut. It spun into a ball of burning energy that buffeted his body, igniting his limbs to move, beseeching his leg to heal, and finally surging through his mind, awakening dormant powers. It told him to grasp the thing he wanted, to take control of what was hidden, to take back what was stolen. That rage, that anger, that feeling of helplessness coalesced into a single point. A pulsing, spinning spur of power that moved faster and faster and faster and faster. Magnus touched his arm, and then it released. At first, Tam wasn't sure what happened. He'd been on the floor, his calf aching. Now Tam was standing up, looking directly at Magnus and brandishing a huge wooden stick in his left hand. The crossbow was gone. The stick glowed a bright blue in a white light from its center. Vines grew from the wood and shot out like spears into Magnus's skin. The troll raged and flailed about. He crashed through the wall behind him, stumbling backwards in the kitchen, but Tam followed him, careful of Anya at his feet, his attention fixated on the troll. Stop! Stop! Magnus roared. But Tam pressed his newfound power ever harder, heard nothing but the spinning, storming rage in his ears as his power created a whirlwind that tore through his memories and brought back the pain that he had endured at the hands of those same trolls. It reminded him of the agony he felt as they laughed at him, assaulted him, tormented him. Then he saw one of those same pipes they'd beat him with sticking through Anya's stomach. And Tam released all his power with a bellowing cry. It spun out of control, traveling down the vines and entering Magnus. Myriad tiny explosions from within sent bits and pieces of troll flying apart. Tam and Magnus were caught up in a whirlwind of swirling energy that shut out everything else. Finally, the troll disintegrated into ash, and the whirlwind stopped. Tam, panting heavily, felt his knees give as he collapsed once again to the kitchen floor. The wooden stick vanished as he stared at the ceiling. He started shaking violently as if burning with fever. Then Boggs appeared above him. You've done it, Tam. You've found your shillelagh. Tam nodded to his uncle. Yeah, I guess so, he said as he closed his eyes and settled in for a long sleep. The end of Chapter 4. The room was warm. and the sheets soft. Tam turned over and once again opened his eyes to find himself not in his own bed. When he pushed himself up, he looked at his surroundings. I'm not in Kansas anymore. I'm not even in Cambridge. This room, unlike the cramped clutter of Boggs' trailer and the sparse furnishings of Tam's own room, this room appeared to be filled with the latest in tech and modern conveniences. Tam got out of bed and he realized he wore a pair of soft loungers. Where were his clothes this time? He pulled the legs of the loungers up to look at his calf. All he saw was a long, healed scar where the Fenris wolf had bitten him. Is this my healing power again? He stood by the bed and took in the long wall of closed blinds, the enormous flat screen on the wall opposite the bed, the smooth modern dresser with its handleless drawers, and 2 doors to his left. The door to the right was a bathroom, complete with a tub, 6-nozzle shower, enclosed entirely in glass, and a separate toilet room. An assortment of bags set to the right of the shower. He found clothing inside, all in his size. New jeans, sneakers, underwear, socks. The underwear again. A gold shirt and a green hoodie. As he held up the hoodie, he noticed something on his left arm that he hadn't been there before. Tam dropped the hoodie and turned to the mirror of the sink. Vines had been woven into the knots of his original tattoo on his arm. They traveled down his arm, wrapping around it, with 4-leaf clovers added here and there, some large, some small, and shamrocks. The vines ended on the back of his hand as they twisted into a point just at the middle knuckle. The design looks so familiar. I've seen this before, but it was in gold. In fact, he had just seen those vines. This is the same pattern on my dad's pocket watch. He ran out of the bathroom and found his old hoodie hanging on the back of a chair. Tam shoved his hands into each of the pockets. I know I put that watch in my pocket. I remember doing it. But a thorough search of his clothing proved he no longer had said pocket watch. Tam ran back to the bathroom and looked at the new tattoos under the bright light. The vines on his arms moved as if they're traveling down his arm to his hand, but once they covered his hand, they sprouted out from his palm and created the same walking stick he'd seen earlier. It formed in midair right before him and would have fallen to the floor if he hadn't grabbed it. He put it in his right hand to make sure it wasn't still attached by the vines. It was separate. The stick itself was maybe 5 feet in length. It looked like someone had ripped a tree branch down and smoothed off the bark. It was irregularly shaped, with a larger knot at the top and tapered to the bottom. Or is the knot the bottom? Tam wondered. Carvings exactly like the ones decorating his dad's pocket watch were expertly worked into the wood, and the wood was warm. The pocket watch had been the most comforting thing he had had, the only thing left to him by his real dad, and something Tam kept at his side since his dad died. Until that night at the drum circle. He'd left it on his nightstand, probably the first time he'd forgotten his watch in 15 years. And now his watch was part of his tattoo? Oh, I get it. So you're my shillelagh, Tam said. He felt a bit odd talking to a stick. You're what that Harridan the Morrigan wants. He felt sort of impression from the wood. Something akin to agreement, but not in words or images, just a knowing. Is this thing sentient? He looked at himself in the mirror. He saw the pointed ears, the remaining band of the tattoo on his arm, but the vines were gone. I'm a leprechaun. Well, whatevs. But now he wondered how to make it disappear. The stick wrenched and lurched in his right hand. He held on to it at first until a burning pain in his entire left arm opened his right hand. The stick disappeared, and the tattoos reappeared. The burning faded, but it made his arm sore. Had he interrupted it from returning by holding on to it? Well, that was good to know. Loud voices interrupted discovery time. He stepped out of the bathroom, put his ear to the door. He recognized Boggs' voice, but not the other one. It was deep and commanded authority, but not that Boggs had ever succumbed to someone telling him what to do. Tam took a quick shower and dressed, deciding that he wanted to install a multi-nozzle shower in his own bathroom. That is, once I clean Magnus troll guts off the floor, he thought to himself, quietly and somewhat disgustedly. A quick look in the mirror didn't do anything for his ears, but Tam trusted that whoever that was, he knew about Boggs and himself. He thought of Anya. He hesitated before he opened the door and stepped out into Wonderland. The place looked like a cross between a lab and a home. He stood on a ledge overlooking a circular living area. A glass partition waist high prevented him from falling as he leaned over and looked down. A circle of Celtic knots bordered the room. And he thought he heard something humming like an engine somewhere. Or like Kira with her mic off. Glass stood in for most of the walls, and the view of Boston was breathtaking. It was night, and the city was lit up like a sea of precious stones against a backdrop. Modern, a backdrop? It was night, and the city was lit up like a sea of precious stones against a black backdrop. I kind of like the word backdrop, though. Very efficient. Any event, modern-styled sofas and chairs littered the space inside the circle of knots, spiraling into a fountain in the center. And from this height, he could see more knots in the face of the fountain. The arguing voices carried upwards. He could hear them, but he couldn't see them, so he moved around the side till he found a set of steps and descended as quickly as he could. As Tam turned the corner into the round living room, he spotted Boggs, standing on the far side, facing down another man. There was no mistaking who this was, and Tam was petrified with nervous energy. "This is ridiculous. You poor excuse for dethroned ruler," Boggs said as he pointed at the taller man. "You think holding us hostage is the way to win the prince's trust?" "I think, dear Boggs, that we're no longer alone." The taller man turned and strode toward Tam. Boggs followed, albeit with a far less open attitude. "Mr. Kirkpatrick, I'm very glad to see you up and about." The man's accent wasn't as pronounced as Boggs. In fact, Tam wasn't really sure what it was, but it was there. Perhaps a touch of Ireland, a touch of something else. Tam took the hand and shook it. He was a little unsure what to say, so "Thank you" was the only thing he got out. "You look very well. It's good to see your leprechaun half is awakening nicely. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Dian Kecht," Tam blurted out, making sure to pronounce it the way he'd seen it. Dian Kecht. "Oh, I know all about you, Mr. Kecht. You're the creator of Virgin Max. I'm a bit of a gamer, and I just heard the article, and I just read the article in Forbes magazine when you bought the Chirrup media platform." Dian smiled. "I'm flattered to hear that, Mr. Kirkpatrick." "Oh, please call me Tam." "And you may call me Dian." Dian Kecht was as sharply dressed in real life as he was in every commercial and advertisement Tam had ever seen. He was thin, with soft, sharp features, long blonde hair. He kept it in a neat and tidy ponytail braided down his back. His suit looked like it was custom-made and fit him perfectly, which followed since he was quite possibly the richest man on earth. There was just one small difference, something Tam hadn't seen in the magazine pictures. Dian's long, elegant, pointed ears. Boggs held out his hands. "So, aren't you going to hit him with a real gut puncher now?" "Patience, you old leprechaun," Dian said, though his tone was more playful. Tam, where's Anya? Is she dead?" Dian smiled broadened. "No, Boyle, she's not dead. She's very much alive and in good hands." "Can I see her?" Dian's expression shifted just a bit. Can you call your shillelagh?" Being more than happy to impress Dian and hoping doing so would allow him to see Anya, Tam looked askance at his uncle. At Boggs' nod, Tam repeated his actions in the bathroom, but this time the moving vines went faster, as if their path to his hand was smoother. Within seconds instead of minutes, he held the shillelagh in hand. The look of adoration on Dian's face was almost alien. Tam frowned at Boggs as Dian took a few steps closer, his fingers inches from the shillelagh. I wouldn't do that," Boggs started. Too late. A spark in the shape of a vine and a clover shot out of the fairy's fingers and did a combo of shock and slap. Dian pulled his hand back, and for a second, Tam feared he made Dian angry. Instead, he shook his hand and laughed. This is amazing. Do you know it's been ages since I've actually seen a shillelagh in the hands of the rightful owner?" "What, really?" I was a minor king back then. The healer to the three, an advisor no one listened to." He turned and moved into the center of the room. Tam dismissed the shillelagh, this time releasing it so it could disappear into the tattoo once again, and then followed alongside his uncle to the fountain. "Well, why didn't they listen to you?" Because they were fools, boyo. Aye, Bog said, all of them. Thought they were untouchable. Dean here had seen the wounded in battle, and he knew the Morrigan was on the move. Aye, Dean nodded, but he faced the expansive view. It was a terrible war, but it was a swift one. Within a year we were deposed, and the Morrigan held the power. The kings and queens were imprisoned. Boggs and I, several others, escaped through a cairn into this world and hid ourselves under the protective spell. He glanced back at Tam. Before your mother, too, stepped into this world and committed the ultimate sin against the Morrigan. Tam figured he knew this one. She had me. Aye, she had you, with a human. Boggs had told you how the Morrigan has hunted down, either killed or controlled the Unseelie throughout all the worlds. But she can't see into this world as easily, so she sends her trolls, her wolves, and her crows, all of them impervious to iron, which is why they can wield it against us. You're not a leprechaun, though. Tam shoved his hands into the pockets of his jeans. No, Boyle. I'm Don-Shi by birth, same as the kings and queens. Leprechauns were our connection to the mounds and stories you've probably learned in your folklore lessons, though many of the tales have been obliterated to the point of silliness. He turned to face them now. You, Tam Kirkpatrick, you represent one of two things. The means for us to take back what was stolen, or the end of our time. End of our time? Tam looked between the two of them. I don't understand. It means, Boyle, Boggs said, that the prophecy that frightened the Morrigan into controlling the Unseelie could be flipped on its head. If she, the Morrigan, gets her hands on you. You mean if she gets the shillelagh? No, Dean said. That time has passed now that you've found it. As you've seen, no one can physically take it from you. It belongs to you, Tam. Tam held up his hands. But Boggs said the Morrigan had her crows steal all the shillelaghs. Can she not touch it and they can? They can, but only if it's manifest. Yours apparently comes and goes, Tam looked away. Is it possible they don't know the shillelagh is my new tattoo? I'm not sure why it does that, Ian said. I don't think I've heard of that happening before. Shillelaghs were always something the leprechauns kept on them, with them. Perhaps yours adapted with the times. Perhaps it's your human heritage. Either way, even if she can't get to the shillelagh, there's always the torque. Tam looked at Dean. Yeah, Magnus threatened me with that. He said once the Morrigan put her own torque around my neck, I'd be her puppet. Yes, this is true. Dean snapped his chin. My intel informs me that the Morrigan doesn't know of Magnus's demise, and my people have cleaned and disaffected your home for you. Without direct proof or witnesses, she can't track that death without magic. Well, what about the Fenris wolves? Tam asked. You dispatched 3 of them. As far as we can tell, that was all Magnus brought with them. Nothing but dust left of them. This also means she doesn't know you found your shillelagh. My guess, Tam, is that after Magnus fails to answer her call, she'll form another raiding party to capture you, or kill you. Why kill me? Tam shrugged his shoulders. If she kills me, she couldn't find the shillelagh. Uh-oh. Kitely went poofy. I would have fixed that real quick. I don't know why. Uno momento, por favor. Mas something or other. Wonder if Katniss knows. Oh, looks like she does. Sorry, fellows and ladies. I don't know why that went. But it did. How annoying is that? It's not a timeout thing because I own the world. Which is to say that world. And it looks like Faery got booted. Also. Sorry, guys. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Actually, you're here, aren't you? Oh, good. Whew. I'm glad SL is still here. Sorry, just a sec here. What do we got going on? That's you. Yeah, sorry, but okay then. Oh, poo. Gonna take me a second to fix things. Sorry. Especially if I don't get my camera girl back. Well, I guess we can just do the sound over there if she doesn't come back. Sorry. Pause, hesitate. Really, we're going to run almost on time tonight anyway. So tell me true. Jeez. See, you guys don't see anything broken. You're like, whatever, just get on with it. But really, things are all goofy over here. Yep, we got to get rid of that one. Who does? Oh, hey, Katniss is back. Yay. That one there. Edit. Okay. So, hey. Everybody hear me here in Kitely? Maybe? Oh, good. Hey, triple good. Okay. And one more moment. So sorry. Technical difficulties. Playful ghosts have interrupted our playful spooks have interrupted our tour. Please remain seated in your doom buggy. Okay. All right. I think we're back on track. So, Shawnee can hear me here in the Kaelora Glen. You said yes. And Katniss said you can hear me. And Faery said you can hear me. So, okay, so we'll go back to the beginning then. Where did we start at? Let's see, page 1. No, that's not that. I think we broke right around. Is it possible they don't know the shillelagh is my new tattoo? Tam wondered. I'm not sure why it disappears and comes like that, Dean said. I don't think I've heard of that happening before. Shillelaghs were always something the leprechauns kept on them, with them. Perhaps yours adapted with the times. Either way, even if she can't get to the shillelagh, there's always the torque. Tam looked back at Diane. Magnus threatened me with that. He said once the Morrigan put her own torque around my neck, I'd be her puppet. This is true. Dean tapped his chin. My intel informs me that the Morrigan doesn't know of Magnus's demise, and my people have cleaned and disinfected your home. No more of those nasty little troll bits. Nice job, that, you. Without direct proof or witness, she can't track down that death with magic. What about the Fenris wolves? Tam asked. You dispatched 3 of those into nothing but piles of dust. As far as we can tell, that was all Magnus brought with them. That also means she doesn't know you found your shillelagh. My guess is after Magnus fails to answer her call, she'll form another raiding party to capture you or kill you. But why kill me? If she kills me, she couldn't find the shillelagh. And that brings us up to the last line, the second I've heard. Yes. If you died before you found it, it would die with you. So her reasoning would be, if I can get it from him, then I can take it. And if I can't, Tam sighed, then kill me and the threat goes away. But what if there are other Enshili like me? There will always be, but the magic protects them by oak and ash and thorn. The repeating of those trees stirred something inside of him, some small bit of something he either knew or forgot or just learned. Those are the trees of magic. Aye, Bog said. You'll not find them in Faery. They were used to make the spell that hides us. Dean reset his gaze on Tam. And so, you've learned our weakness. Iron. And if someone stares at me, that's how Magnus attacked me in the house. No, it's not just any stare, Tam. It's one with the intent to keep you still. Just any person's gaze won't do it. If someone hits you with an idle stare, you won't freeze. Think of the folklore stories you've heard of. Leprechauns getting the gold. Oh, yeah, and if you keep your eye on the leprechaun, he can't get away. Yes, that bit of the silly folklore is actually not silly folklore at all. It's truth. A stare with intent will keep you frozen in place. Well, aye, Boggs said. But any stare. For me, all stares become nuisances. Because you're a Shillelagh? Tam asked. Aye. Lucky for me, in these past few decades, kids stare at their phones and not at people. Dean took up the conversation again. Do you understand the weaknesses? Yeah, I think so. And my strengths are I can turn a troll into ash. Dean slipped his hands into the pockets of his suit pants. Your shillelagh acts as a focus of your will, Tam. It will have the same limits you have, meaning belief is key. Your want and need have to reflect your heart's desire. For instance, you may want to elicit vengeance for someone doing a wrong, but that's a surface want. Your heart knows it's wrong to kill. If it detects there could be other factors involved in you being wrong, the shillelagh will sense that conflict and it won't act, even if you want it to. He's right, well, Bog said. Oh, fuck, if you make it do something your heart disapproves of, you'll feel the consequences, believe me. So always be careful, Royal. But I utterly destroyed that troll. Tam looked at each of them. I mean, I obliterated him, and I knew I was doing it. Aye, that's because he tortured you, Tam. Bog sat forward. He broke your body, and he tried to control your mind. He hurt you, or you'd never touched him or done anything to make him hurt you. Your heart knew Magnus acted on pure selfish wants and needs. And, the old leprechaun gave Tam a half-smile, and he hurt your puka protector, Anya. But Anya's not only that. She's your friend. Your heart knew the command was true, so the shillelagh did its job. Is our texty thing being weird? Oh, I guess it's going okay. Tam looked at his arm and imagined the vine tattoos beneath the sleeve of his hoodie. It did indeed. Do its job. So, you said Anya was alive. Can I see her? Will she live? Here we go, Boggs said. Tam ignored Boggs and looked at Dean. What? Dean took in a deep breath and released it as he turned back to the window. Tam joined him and looked out over the city. He could see the reflection in the glass. I'm a healer. In fact, at one time I was considered a deity. That was a long, long time ago. Tam gave Boggs a look before he looked at Dean's profile. Go on. Well, over time, living here in this world, my power has waned. I'm able to heal some things, others I can only patch, but not mend completely. The puka's wound with the iron pipe should be fatal. I've suspended her life, but only for a time. He turned toward Tam, and for a moment he thought he saw the man's true age in his eyes. There is a well I blessed some time ago. That is being stupid, isn't it? Let me reset my scripty attachment thingies here. Sorry. Why, oh, why did we have to crash? Why, oh, why? I cry. Let's see. And it reset that one. Is she in the stable? You read ahead. Am I the only one seeing the weird garbage text in local chat? Okay. I am all better now. Be nice if it typed that it was me, but you know. Okay. I think I fixed it. I think we're done crashing. Shall we not crash anymore tonight? That would be good. SL plugin has stopped working. Great. Jeez. All right, then. One more time. From the top. Dean says there is a well I blessed some time ago, a well of healing water. It still retains a great deal of my power. It was a place that done she could go and heal anything. Anything? Hey, except a missing head, Boggs piped up. Don't forget that little mishap, Dean. Dean's lips twitched. Yes, a severed head is a problem, and nothing I know of will breathe life back into friend or foe who loses their head. But it is a place that will heal Anya. Well, then let's go there. Tam pulled his hands from his hoodie's pockets and started to head to the door, but stopped when he saw neither Dean or Boggs moving. He moved in front of Dean, blocking his view of the city. What are you not telling me? What is the well in Faery or something? Is that it? No. The well is in this world. I just can't... Dean finally shrugged. I can't get to it. No, Boggs said as he stood up. No lies, Dean. Tell him the truth. Come on, you two. We have to save Anya. He looked from one to the other. Dean looked angry, and Tam thought he saw his eyes flash red. No, Boggs. Some things should be left in the past. And don't give me the same shtick about reliving the past if we don't face it. I've faced it every waking hour since that old crow took everything from us. Does it have anything to do with healing Anya, this past thing? Tam asked. No. Then forget about it. Just tell me what you want. It has to do with me, doesn't it? Otherwise, you wouldn't have given us help, and you wouldn't have asked us to see my shillelagh. You want something, Dean Kecht. What is it? Quiet crept into the room and brought with it a cold, icy feeling that moved over the tiled floors. Everything stopped at that moment as Dean turned his stony face to Tam. Want? What I want. You. This time the shillelagh manifested unbidden in his hand as Tam felt a surge of power and a basic need to protect himself. He held it out in front of himself and took a step back. I think you need to explain that a bit better, Kecht. Boggs got on his feet, laughing. Easy, boyo. Calm down. Dean's not like the Morrigan. He doesn't want to control you. He just needs, favors. Yes. From time to time, Dean visibly shrank away from the shillelagh as Tam held it between them. The thing pulls the subtle green light this time. I have one in particular right now I need. The well. Tam figured that one out pretty quick. What does this have to do with the well? The well is in the middle of that Morrigan's human gardens, Dean said. He relaxed a little. She takes a dip in that well from time to time. It prolongs her life and zaps the earth of her strength. Not because the magic is weak, but because the Morrigan takes too much. Controlling the entire Unshidi population takes a lot out of her on a daily basis. Tam raked his fingers through his hair as he turned away from Boggs and Dean and looked out over the cityscape. He caught a glimpse of his ears in the reflection as he lowered the shillelagh and put the fingertips of his right hand on the glass. It was cold, hard, soulless. And we have to put Anya in that well. Yes. And the only way to get to the well has to do with my shillelagh. Again, yes. Tam refocused on Dean's reflection. But you don't want to just use it. You want to take it back. You want to run the Morrigan out of there and reclaim the well. No. The answer stunned Tam. He turned away from the window and stared at Dean. No, you don't? No. I don't want anything that old crow has ever touched. What I want is much more complicated, Tamlin. And I'm not sure you're up to the challenge. Tam cleared the room in a blink and stood inches from Dean. It was only a second before Tam raised the shillelagh and the tall Faery was thrown back. He sailed through the air and crashed into the fountain, knocking it over and cracking it into several pieces. Boggs jumped up as the door opened and an army of black-clad men with huge longbows filed in. They formed a ring around Tam and pointed their bows at him. Wait, Dean called out from behind them. Stop, there's no need, you're dismissed. The men in the black lowered their weapons and filed back out of the room. Tam, still holding the shillelagh in front of him, saw Boggs and fishing Dean out of the rubble of the now destroyed fountain. It was quite a show. I apologize. I told him to remain on standby and not to come until called. Dean was more than wet when he was drenched. His blonde hair plastered his head and his suit stuck to him, making him appear even thinner. But I attacked you. Tam narrowed his eyes. No. I came at you and you reacted just like you're supposed to. The fight to survive is built into your shillelagh. As I said before, it is your will, and having been kidnapped and tortured recently, your will to survive has grown. And I think you would have reacted slower if this event hadn't happened. He brushed Boggs off of him and stood dripping in his living room. We can save Anya's life. The well is the key, but we have to do it before the Morrigan discovers you have the Shillelagh. If she knows, she'll build her defenses against you as well as triple her offense to capture you. There won't be a better time to get to the well. Tam wasn't sure he believed everything Dean said. He wanted to. After all, this was a figure of authority, someone he looked up to for a while in the electronic and gaming world. But this guy wanted to breach the garden of what everyone was telling him was a crazy, powerful fairy whose only connection to Tam was the desire to either take, destroy, or control his Shillelagh, not to mention kill him. It's a big task, Boyle, Boggs said. You don't have to do this. I have to save Anya. Tam lowered the Shillelagh as it vanished from his hand. I was just getting to know her. I mean, think of how great it'll be if I can rescue her. But if you don't want to take the well back, then what do you want to do with it? I want you to destroy it. All of it. Without the well, the Morrigan can't keep regenerating. Without replenishing her power, she'll lose it. And her hold over Faery. Tam couldn't argue with that. If Dean Keck wanted to destroy one of his own creations, then so be it. The only thing worrying him now was that, now that he had his Shillelagh, was healing Anya. You believe the Shillelagh can do that? Oh, no. Only I can destroy it. I just need you to get us to it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to change before we get going. Dean Keck turned away. Now? Tam said. Dean paused. You'd prefer to wait until Anya dies of her injuries? Get ready, Leprechaun. You're about to test your power and your weaknesses. Hey, knock on wood, 5 minutes and we haven't crashed. That's pretty cool. I know, tempting fate. Apparently Dean Keck had been planning this day for a very, in fairy terms, very long time. He knew exactly where the well was, down to the longitude and latitude on this earth. He knew the Morrigan schedule down to the minute. He'd watched her for years, sent all manners of spies to gather intel and burn through large sums of money just to keep an eye on her. Fortunately, Dean Keck had large sums of money. If I didn't know why he was doing it, I'd think he was pretty creepy. Tam studied the maps Dean had drawn and memorized the surrounding landmarks at least 50 miles away. Apparently, Shillelaghs, according to Boggs, are capable of transporting a leprechaun instantly to a known location. Cool, I want one of those sticks. Oh, I have one of those sticks. I need to go try that. But that was the key. It had to be a known location. Tam had never been in that part of the world, that part being Connacht, Ireland. The plan was to transport himself to the well, and if he was successful, come back to get Anya and Dean. They would slip Anya into the water, allow her to heal, which Dean said was an instant process, and then Dean would destroy the well. Well, it all sounded easy enough, didn't it? But something about the idea bothered Tam. It nagged at him as he sat in Dean's round library amidst ceiling-high shelves of books, old books, new books, books in languages Tam was pretty sure he'd never even heard of, perhaps some that never even existed. He periodically got up and walked around to stretch his legs as the night wore on and the time to try Dean's plan arrived. Hasn't this guy ever heard of e-books? He muttered to himself as he moved about the room. He ran his left hand along the books as he made his 6th or 10th or 100th pass around the room. Damn. He stopped because he thought someone had come into the room. He turned to answer, but no one was there. Tam, please. Wait. Tam turned around again and looked at a shelf of books. I've heard that voice before, recently. I heard it when I... Tam, don't do it. Now he was creeped out. The voice sounded like Anya's. He'd asked Dean several times if he could see her, but the fairy mogul put him off, telling him she was in critical condition. Listen, Tam. Anya? He said aloud as his voice echoed to the room. There was no answer, no voice in his head. He moved to the pages of maps on the table and picked up a pen. I gotta be dreaming. This is just nuts. And it was nuts. The whole idea, not just popping from place to place, but doing it to destroy something as rare as a healing well, seemed wrong. He started using the pen as a bull rod's tipper, softly striking against the table, just as he would if he were playing his drum. But the angle was off. It wasn't the same. His routine since he was 8 had been to pull his bowrun out and play when he found himself in tough situation, having difficulty with a decision, or if he couldn't think through a math problem, or, well, whatever it might be. He needed the rhythm to think. Boggs said he put the drum where it was safe, but Tam hadn't seen Boggs since Dean stuck him in the library to memorize the location. He dropped the pen on the table and held out his left hand as he summoned the shillelagh. If it was possible to go to a place and back, was it possible to bring something to where he was? Was it going to hurt to try? And what if I've been to bringing something to me that wants to kill me? Well, Tam dismissed that thought and closed his eyes. Using his imagination, he formed an image of the bowrun in his mind. He saw the curve of the wood, the studs around the edges, and he felt the texture of the skin. He thought of playing it, sitting in his room at home and striking out a beat. Something thudded on the ground at his feet. He broke the image, opened his eyes to see his bowrun's case. Tam set the shillelagh on the table and knelt down to open it up. His drum was there, as were his tappers in their velvet sleeve. He pulled the drum out, selected a tipper, and sat back down on the stool with the bowrun on his right knee. His tipper poised at the relaxed, ready position in his left hand. Tam began to play. He closed his eyes and lost himself in the music, in the beat of the drum, the whisper of the tappers brush against the skin, the glide of his hands as he moved the edge of his right palm along the inside of the drum to change the pitch. He saw a well in his mind, but not the stereotypical kind with a rounded brick or stone sides and a wheel and a pulley for a bucket. This image showed only a hole in the ground, in a diameter much larger than he'd imagined. Grass grew along around its borders, so long it fell into the water itself and bloomed lilies of purple and pink and white. It didn't have a muddy bank or a sandy beach, just the roots of a nearby tree. No, 3 trees. The ash, the oak, and the thorn, a blackthorn tree. They grew in the shape of a triangle, a root system in each corner. Dairy should be here, don't you think, Caledonia? In the middle rested the blessed well. He reached out in his mind to touch the roots, to feel their bark, and listened to the song of the earth inside of them, and felt hundreds of whispers against his mind. Name after name of Leprechaun, Shillelagh, unshillelagh alike. With each whisper he saw the root of a tree as it formed the shape of a staff. Shillelaghs. He was hearing the teeming voices, the joined song of 100 shillelaghs singing out to him. That's it! Anya's voice shattered the vision. He dropped the tapper, and he would have dropped the bowrun if he hadn't moved to the table. He breathed hard as he reset his awareness back to the library, back to Dean Keck's home. With the drum in his lap, sandwiched between his chest and the table, he reached out for the shillelagh and moved his hand along its surface. He knew in that instant his shillelagh was made of blackthorn wood, and the tree of trees, the sacred trees surrounding the well, was the rebirth of the stolen shillelaghs. The trees. Dean's well keeps the shillelaghs alive, Tam said aloud as he finished his thought. Anya, I think I figured it out. She's keeping the shillelaghs alive, but why? Take me there. Where are you? Above you. Tam looked up. He hadn't noticed the ceiling. It was domed, much like the one over the living room. Certainly not like the Boggs' trailer. It was 2 circular rooms, then. How odd was that? But Dean was a billionaire a billion times over. He could have anything he wanted. He could buy anything he wanted. He stared at the ceiling as he clutched his bowrun. Was it possible there was a room there above the library? Tam put his drum back in its case along with the tapper. Grabbing the shillelagh, he ran to the door, thinking he could do a bit of exploring. It was locked. The end. I need a drink. The door was locked, but Tam jerked it back and forth, but the door remained locked. Dean had locked him in the library with the professor and the rope, or was it the candlestick, and Miss Scarlet. Anyway, why did Dean lock him in the library? They were supposed to go to the well. Heal Anya, unless that wasn't the real plan. You're above me? In a room? I don't know, Tam. I can't see. He looked at the shillelagh. Dean said he could only go where he'd been before. So what happened if he tried going where he hadn't been before? What would be the outcome? Boggs hadn't said what it would be, only giving his usual shrug. Was his uncle aware he had been locked in the library? I'm going to try. Think of my bow. Think only of my bow. Tam closed his eyes and thought about the bow. He'd seen it in her hand, on her back. He imagined her firing it, touching it, and he heard it singing to her. No, it sang to him. Toshchila, he said, releasing the shillelagh, using the word for traveler. Tam felt the floor drop out from beneath him. Seconds before he landed on something hard again, he dropped and rolled and came up with the shillelagh in front of him. Not that it mattered. He didn't think he was in Dian's fortress anymore, not unless he'd installed a hospital wing. The bright lights made him squint as he came up on his feet. He stood in a hospital room, intensive care by the looks of the machine surrounding someone in bed. Dark red hair on white sheets. Tam moved closer and looked down at the encumbered person. Anya. How did you get in here? The voice startled him as the shillelagh vanished. He turned and faced a nurse and scrubbed a very prickly expression. Sorry, I didn't. I was looking for Anya Mukul's room. Well, you found it, but she's not receiving visitors. Her uncle gave strict instructions she wasn't to see anyone. Oh? Am didn't know if she had an uncle. He hated the fact he barely knew her, and yet she was in this mess because of him. Was her uncle tall with long blonde hair and very thin? Yes. Dian. Tam kept his hands in front of him just so she could see them. I'm sorry. I'm her boyfriend. I've been out of town and I just heard she was here. Can you tell me what happened? I promise I'll leave with no problems. I'm just concerned. He smiled at her and leaned forward, thinking only of thoughts of cooperation and kindness. The nurse sighed and seemed to think it over. We don't really know how it happened. She was injured from a pipe. Her uncle said she fell onto it, but with her other injuries... Other injuries? Yes, she's got multiple contusions, which could be from a fall, but there's a lot of them that seem to have been made before the injury from the pipe. What? I shouldn't get into it, and you need to leave. Just know her uncle's paying for the best care and security for her, so whoever's trying to kill her can't get in here. I got in here. Tam licked his lips. Okay, one more thing. Has her uncle been in to see her? Yes, he just left. Should I stop him? Oh, no, I don't want to cause a problem. Is that the door out? Yes. Tam smiled and stepped out of the room. The main station was empty, so he ducked inside the closest empty room and called the shillelagh. What is Dian playing at? He locked me in his library, and now I find Anya's across town on life support in Massachusetts General Hospital. Feeling a bit more confident about his traveling abilities, he thought of the coordinates Dian had made him memorize and honed in on there. Toshchila, he said again. But he didn't shout it this time. Again, the floor dropped out from beneath him, and he landed on a soft, grassy ground. Sun sifted through a thick canopy of trees overhead as he rolled on the ground. He smelled the earth and felt dampness across his cheek. This was the place in his dreams. The 3 trees surrounding a center well. He moved to his hands and knees and looked at the water at the reflection of the swaying green leaves overhead. Tam pushed up to just his knees and looked around. A forest surrounded the well as far as he could tell, but there was no one for miles. He needed to test the water before he brought Anya here, but he didn't have an injury he could use. You're early, came a deep, sultry voice overhead. Remind me to kill that evil Dian next time I see him. He jumped back and brandished the shillelagh. A note echoed in the forest. To his surprise, the trees answered in harmony. Tam looked for the voice, but he didn't see anyone or anything, and a single crow's feather swayed to the breeze as it fell at his feet. He jumped back as something very large and very black landed close to where he'd been beside the well. It was a woman, a tall blonde woman with large black eyes and enormous black feathered wings. She spread them out behind her, obscuring the well from his view. Her lips were as black as her eyes, her teeth as white as snow. So, you are Tam Lin, and you're the Morrigan. You don't have to use the honorific. Morrigan will do. She smiled at him, and Tam felt oily. You're supposed to bring me a certain red-haired puka. Bring you? He kept the shillelagh between them. I was supposed to dip her in the water. Yes, I know. It was my plan. We figured if I could get inside that witch's head, I could get closer to you. Interesting how Dian neglected to tell me you'd already found your shillelagh. Dian made a deal with you. That's what we do, boy. We're a people of promise dealers. Tam licked his lips. So we're going to use my protector, Anya, to control me. No, to prod you to find your shillelagh. Seems I'm too late. But no matter, it's just one more piece of wood to add to my garden. She moved away and tucked her wings against her back. Now you can be a good little leprechaun and behave. Give me your shiny toy, boy, and I'll let you save the life of your puka witch. Or, she paused and faced him, I can take you now and let your little witch die. Either way, you become mine, and your shillelagh is added to my collection. Collection? Morgan held up her hand, and a torque appeared. This one was different than the one Magnus had. This was more elaborate, thicker. The skin around his neck prickled at the memory of the iron's burn. He kept his eyes locked and unwilling to let her get behind him. He wasn't going to let her do what Magnus did. His mind continued to race ahead. Tam was told how the Morgans stole all the shillelaghs in Faery and put torques on their owners. If so, and if his uncle didn't have a shillelagh, then had he worn a torque as well? Come to think of it, he hadn't seen Boggs' neck, and before recently he hadn't seen Boggs in nearly a decade. This is where you put the shillelaghs. You bring them here and put them in the water, and they become part of the original trees. Why? A shillelagh is not only the will of the leprechaun, but a part of their soul. It also has the power of prophecy for their owners. Combined, I can see the futures for all the people of my kingdom when I surround and surrender myself to the water. That's how you knew about me. Of course. That's how I know you will submit to me. Just like all the other good little Anshili have. I am the mother. And then she was gone. No lift of a wing, not even a stir in the air. Holding out the shillelagh, he spun around looking for her. She laughed behind him. Too late. His muscles locked again, and he found himself staring at these three trees, unable to speak or even to will his shillelagh away. Pretty, Morgan said as she brushed her talons along his cheek. So very handsome. It's amazing how the world paints your kind as tiny little bearded creatures, when in truth you've always been the most pleasing to the eye. She pressed her hands down on his shoulders. You will be mine now, Tam Lin. My aid. My right hand as I search the world for more Anshili and bring them under my wings. And perhaps some more tasks I may have for you. He scoured everything he'd learned from the past week. Everything Boggs, Dian, and even Anya had said. Boggs' words, though they might be said under the guise of a Morrigan, felt the most true. When he talked about his shillelagh, he spoke with emotion, revelation, and honest envy. He missed his power. He missed his tie to the earth. The shillelagh was a leprechaun's will. If this is my will, then I will myself away to break her gaze. Bong, bong, bong. Top of the hour. So sorry, folks. We are going to run late. I don't claim responsibility for this insane little matter, but rather technology at its worst, or best, or most mischievous in any event. So, hopefully you can stay with us. I would have been done on time nearly, but anyway, if I shut up complaining about it, we can get back on with the story. If perhaps you need to take off, it'll be on the YouTube channel. You can catch it up later. Hopefully you can stay with us. Onward, ho! Who you calling a ho? Whatever, let's go. If this is my will, Tam said, then I will myself away to break her gaze. Think, the way Anya had done it was to distract Magnus, but Tam had no one here to distract the Morrigan. He told no one he was going, so if he had to have a distraction, he'd have to make it himself, and if so, could he? Was it possible? The gaze might trap his body, but obviously it didn't trap his mind. He stared straight ahead and thought of Anya. Her body, her shape, her hair. He thought of her dancing, step dancing in a line of people, arms at her sides. He heard the music, the beat of the bodhrán. He focused everything on that image and then projected it into the trees. To his surprise, a grayish image of Anya appeared there in the trees, dancing, and on the breeze he heard the beat of a drum as it struck an old familiar rhythm. Who's there? The Morrigan said. Her gaze broke. Tam could move. He flipped the shillelagh around, turned with a yell, and shoved the small one into the Morrigan's belly. I have a will of my own, and my path is not yours to control. He continued shoving until he skewered her, mirroring what Magnus had done to Anya. Morgan screamed, and the place where he pierced her lit up like a Roman candle. She exploded in a flurry of crows that flew at him, scratched at his face, and disappeared into the trees. Tam went down on his knees, his face stinging, his arms, shoulders burning. His shillelagh was covered in some kind of black ochre goo. With a smile and a numbing feeling in his gut, Tam dipped it into the well. The water glowed blue, and as he pulled it out, it was pristine again. It looked like it had a few more carvings on it now. When he cradled it to him, he felt the shillelagh vibrate, and he thought he heard a laugh. Just a few more things to fix, Tam smiled, and then we both can rest. Getting back to Anya was easier the second time. Getting her untangled from the wires and tubes, that was a whole different matter. He knew if he unhooked the heart monitor, the nurses would be in the room and all over him. So Tam decided to wing it with his hand on her arm and travel back to the well. He felt lucky that just Anya came with him and not the entire hospital apparatus. But the moment she wasn't on life support, Anya gasped for air. Tam dismissed the shillelagh as he lifted her in his arms and then slipped himself, holding her, into the well. The water bubbled and bubbled like toil and trouble and felt a lot like a mineral spring he'd once visited. He felt and held Anya close to him and smiled as he felt her body shift and change against him, until finally her eyes opened wide as she gasped one last time for air. Then she moved on her own. In fact, she scrambled away from him and fought to climb out of the well. "Hey, relax," Tam said as he put his hands on her. "I'm not trying anything, I promise. I just wanted to make sure you wouldn't drown." You can't drown in a healing well, fool," she muttered as she continued to climb out. "And I'm barely dressed." That much was true. He had noticed that. The thin hospital gown with no back did nothing to cover her body, and Tam had to admit it was a nice body. He turned away and waited until she was out before he climbed free and offered her his soaked jacket. They sat to the side of the well for a few minutes, enjoying the warm breeze and the sound of birds. Tam listened to the whispers of the shillelaghs. "They're here, you know." "Yeah, I got that from you. So how do you get them out, the shillelaghs?" "I don't know. Even if I could, where would we go? Their owners are still under Morrigan's control." "She isn't dead?" Tam shook his head. He was pretty certain a simple stab to the gut for someone like Morrigan wasn't fatal. He was pretty sure he'd wounded her, though. Well, she'll be back. Freeing the shillelaghs has to come after we free the Shillelagh. What good would it do to release their wills with their being controlled by iron? "We?" "Or me. This isn't your fight." "It's not yours either, Tam. You have a chance to lead a normal life." Tam frowned at her. "Seriously, Anya? I have pointed ears. I can summon a magic stick, and I have a legendary monster after me, and whatever you are, where in there is normal?" She smiled at him and shrugged. "Conceited. So what about this place? You want to take it from her?" "There's no need. I proved to her that the prophecies of the shillelaghs are just a shadow of the future. We can change that future if we will it. That's what she stole." He leaned his head to the right and smacked his left ear as he tried to dislodge water out of his right ear. Keeping the shillelaghs alive like this does give hope for the future. The trees know this. That's why they grow here. And no matter how many baths she takes in this water, she'll never be able to bend the future to make it hers. "So we just leave it under her control?" Tam stood and offered his hand. "That's the secret, Anya. It's never been under her control. That's a lie, and one she chooses to believe. Let her continue to believe it." Once Anya was on her feet, he summoned his shillelagh. Looking at it, he thought, I'm getting pretty good at this. "There's one shillelagh I can sense, louder than the rest." Anya's lips pulled into a thin line. "Your uncle's?" "Yeah." The Morrigan admitted she struck a deal with Dean. "There's something about Dean, something Boggs has on him. I agree with her that we're a race of promise dealers, my uncle in particular. I think he's got something up his sleeve with Dean. Otherwise, why make himself a player in whatever game Dean's got going? I just can't make sense of the idea that he wants to destroy this well." Tam narrowed his eyes at her. "That was you I heard before, right? In the library?" "I didn't know you were in a library. I was in a dark place. But now and then I could see and hear you. I think it has something to do with my duty to you and your family." "About that. Who sent you to protect me?" She smiled at him, a beautiful smile. "Your mother." Tam took several steps toward her. You know my mother?" She's alive? Where is she? Why did she leave me? What? Does she know my dad died of a broken heart? Anya's strength returned as she summoned a knife and held it up between them. Stop right there, Prince. I can't answer those questions. I shouldn't have told you as much as I have, but I thought you should at least know that if your uncle is dirty and Dean's the jerk we suspect he is, you do have someone on your side. On my side. Tam was pretty sure he wasn't going to get any more out of, or at least not right now. But if he played his cards right, he might be able to wear her down over time. He smiled to himself as he waved at her knife. Put that away. I'd never attack you. Not now, but who knows what the future brings. The knife disappeared. The Morrigan's not going to stop coming after you, Tam. She's probably more pissed now than ever. Yeah, I figured that. Your house has been cleaned, and Dean set up new wards. I'd like to take those down and set up some of my own. Sure. Tam looked around the woods as a breeze moved the hair over his forehead. I don't know whether to confront Boggs or Dean just now or just wait. I'm sure Dean's going to be pissed as well, seeing as how I did this without letting him destroy the well. And I don't think he can get here without you. Anya took a step forward. So what, we carry on as usual? For now. So it's been, a week? Yes. And I'm currently listed as a missing person? Yes. I think I should start by assuring everyone I'm not missing. Then I have to resort to some priorities. Anya shifted into her horse form, as Rick so wisely predicted. A beautiful red mare. Yes, and I'll be watching you like a hawk in step dancing, Tam Lin. I might even make you my partner. Tam laughed as he jumped on her back and held on to her mane. Go right ahead if you want some broken toes. I just might. You ready to head home? No. Want to go for a run? Oh, Tam Lin, I thought you'd never ask. And so our tale rests here for now, with Tam Kirkpatrick no longer just a student or drummer, but the bearer of the last shillelagh, who's defied trolls and wolves in the Morrigan's gaze itself. Anya walks once more at his side, the well whispers with the voices of the old magic, and in the shadows, oaths and betrayals still coil. The path ahead is uncertain, but tonight we leave our hero standing, half in wonder, half in peril, with fairy blood awake in his veins, and a destiny yet to be written.